Hi everyone, Alex Wilson here. You're back with the DBT download. Now, today I'm going to talk about self-compassion. And I'm going to talk about it in a little bit of a different way. When we think about self-compassion, we often think about being really nice to ourselves, and that is part of self-compassion. And it's something that a lot of people struggle with is, finding self-compassion. But I want to kind of explore actually different types of self-compassion, and that self-compassion is not just being nice to yourself, right? It's actually a little more complex than that. And if you've heard or read any of Kristen Neff's stuff, if you haven't, you should. An expert on self-compassion. But she talks about this a lot, about the idea that there are two sides to self-compassion. There's the soft and tender self-compassion, right? And this is soothing, validating, comforting. And that might be where we're going through something difficult and we might be saying to ourselves, this is hard. My feelings make sense. You're not alone, things like that. That's the soft, warm, comforting side. But then there's another side to self-compassion, and it's sometimes called fierce self-compassion. Now, this helps us actually take action when action is needed. So, fierce self-compassion says to us, okay, what might need to change? Or what difficult step here will help me? Self-compassion recognizes that in order to get our long-term goals or to stick with our values, sometimes we need to do hard things. So it's not all this like just be really gentle on yourself. Sometimes that's great, but sometimes being gentle on yourself is not actually going to create the action that you need to do in order to work towards those bigger goals and values. Sometimes what we need is to kind of give ourselves a little bit of a compassionate push. Now, this isn't the sort of push where we go, oh my God, you're failing, and like pull your socks up and get on with it. That's not self-compassion. Okay. It's a sort of push where it's like, hey, you want better than this. You deserve better than this. Change is needed. Get moving, right? So it's that sort of self-compassion. It's some self-accountability, right? Now, if we go too far either way, we're going to get into trouble. And this brings us back to a core idea in DBT of middle ground. So I want tender, soft self-compassion, and I want fierce, action-focused self-compassion. And I want to be able to use both, depending on the situation and the time and what's going to work. If we have too much tenderness without action, that can turn into avoidance. We can start to, in the name of niceness, let ourselves off the hook when maybe we shouldn't, when maybe action and change is needed, right? And of course, action without tenderness can become punishment, and we don't want that either. So we need both, okay? I've talked in previous episodes about validation, and validation is not the same as endorsement. Validation is saying that something is understandable, an emotion or a reaction. It doesn't mean my interpretation is completely accurate, or my urge is the most effective response, or the other person is entirely to blame, right? These are not things that I'm validating. I'm simply validating this is hard. Okay. But all those other things I've just mentioned maybe need a little bit more of a critical eye, right? Maybe my interpretation isn't totally accurate. Maybe this urge is not the wisest choice. Maybe it's not entirely the other person's fault. Maybe I hold some accountability, at least for my response, right? And sometimes I might even need to make a repair or to try something different, right? And that doesn't mean that I'm invalidating. That doesn't mean that I'm a terrible person and I should beat myself up. It just means that I'm human, but it's compassionate towards my values and goals to hold myself accountable to that. So I can say my feelings make sense and at the same time say, and I need to do something differently. Okay. So some questions you might ask yourself. First of all, What am I feeling? Is that understandable? Okay, given what's happening. Second, I want to check the facts. Are there assumptions or predictions or emotion-driven conclusions going on? If so, just proceed with caution. I want to think about what do I genuinely need, not just in the short term, not just short-term relief, but for my longer term goals and well-being. What do I need? And then what is a compassionate and effective step towards that? How can I support myself while I'm doing it? Okay. Those are the questions that you can use to help find that middle ground between the tender and the fierce compassion. So I hope that makes sense. As always, reach out if you have questions or you want to chat. Bye for now.